Right, I'm here today at Arena Pool. This is on the Cudmore complex and it's also the venue for the final of this year's Fishing Mania. I'm here today to have a little sneaky practice session because I've fished Arena a lot, but in recent times it's changed a lot. They've completely restarted the lake. It's had a new stocking of fish. A lot of different fish have been stocked into the lake, a lot more smaller fish, and it's made it a completely different match in terms of how you're going to approach the final. So I need to try and work out a few different methods that I've not had to fish in previous finals. What I'm going to try today, I'm going to try and have a little go on the Waggler and see how that produces. There's an area of water on Arena that seems to never get touched, and that's somewhere between the far line of your pole at around 14 to 16 metres, and then the island, which is roughly probably 30 metres away. The area of water in between that is seldom fished, so it's an area I want to approach today, hopefully with a Waggler, and see what I can catch there, just to give myself a bit of an idea of whether it's worth concentrating during the final itself. Tackle for today, I'm keeping it really nice and simple. I don't want to confuse myself with all sorts of wagglers, so I'm fishing really nice, sensible. I just want to see what bites I get, to be honest. So I'm fishing a nice, really light 13-foot rod. As I said, the species in Arena has completely changed now, so I'm not fishing for the great big carp that it was in previous years. Now I'm fishing for a much smaller average size of fish, so a light rod really helps me to land everything that I'm going to hook. That's in conjunction with a nice small 3000 size reel. Allows me to be nice and efficient, and again, it doesn't overbalance my rod, keeps it nice and all balanced. Yeah, I want a nice, really light main line. That's 0.16. That allows me to be very accurate with my casting. It also stops my float moving about too much. The thicker your line, the more it's going to be affected by the wind and the tow and all sorts of things. So the thinner my line, the more stationary my rig's going to be in the water. So my rig itself, I've got a nice 5-gram Waggler. So I'm going to dot that down as low as I can possibly get with all my locking shotters around the base of the Waggler, and I've simply got 4 number 11 shot spaced out through the rig to give it a nice low fall. The depth, it's actually really shallow when you get across to the far bank on Arena, and it's only around 3 foot deep. So of course my rig's set, so it's probably 2 inches over depth when it's close to that far bank. So we've got a nice small hook, a nice size 18 hook that I'm going to fish single maggot on, and an 0.12 hook length. Again, all my gears around, getting plenty of bites off anything that swims pretty much. Anything that's happy to eat my maggots, I want to catch today. I want to see what's available. Feed for this session, I've kept things really simple. I've got some maggots from the hook. I'm not going to feed any maggots. If I was to feed some, I'd have killed them first to put them in my ground bait. It's no good putting live wriggly maggots in my ground bait because my balls are going to break up on the way. So I've got some maggots from the hook, I've got some casters, they're going to be my loose feed. They're just going to form some particles on the bottom to give the fish something to root about on. They'll also help me to catch fish like chub, possibly some tench. There's a lot of hide in here as well that they're going to get the silverfish feeding. Whereas just ground bait on its own, that would be more suitable to just the carp. But say we've added some casters to the ground bait. And what I've been feeding is just a plain pellet-based ground bait. Nothing fancy whatsoever. I'm just using it basically as a carrier with a little bit of attraction to try and get some fish in. So I'm putting plenty of casters in my ground bait. And I'm making a nice little ball. That's all I want to be feeding. Every cast I'm feeding that sort of size. By keeping it nice and firm, I've mixed it nice and fluffy so it's going to pretty much break up on impact. I'm feeding a nice small ball, probably half the size of a golf ball. And that's plenty. It just nicely fits inside my catapult. And so just with a gentle lob, I can put that wherever I want it. Generally, I try and bottom my elastic out. A bottomed out elastic will be a lot more accurate than you trying to guess the tension all the time. So by bottoming it out, hopefully it'll land in the same place all the time. So another point worth mentioning is that I'll always put a dead maggot on the hook. It stops your hook spinning up. The last thing you want is to be retrieving that rig and it's being a great big knot all the time. So just by giving a little roll on your maggot, putting the hook in, it makes a nice dormant hook bait. It doesn't spin on the way in, keeps things nice. Now that I'm all plumbed up and my peg's been fed, I'm ready to cast in. It's really important when I cast that I put my whole rig in a nice straight line. The last thing I want is for my hook bait to be turning over and landing on the island. I also need a tight line at all times in between my float and my rod. If I end up with a big loop, then all it's going to lead to is me missing bites by reacting to them too slowly, and it's also going to make my Waggler move really unnaturally through my peg and prevent me from getting bites. So the way I need to put my rig in, once I've unhooked myself, is what I need to do. I need to swing my Waggler out nicely, bring it behind me and push it through nice and quickly and hit the clip. By hitting the clip, I've got a really tight line now all the way to my waggler, and that's over my furthest baited area. I've still got the shorter area to come to if I miss a bite on that one. So I don't want to feed too often. Because I'm feeding ground bait, I'll try and feed every 2 or 3 fish, or respond to bites. There's no point keep on going and knackering my peg by putting too much bait in too quick. Just feel your way in, see what happens. The shorter line, that can be fed slightly more regular, to be honest, and I can build that up a little bit quicker and see if I can get a different response on that line. It'll let me know which one's best. Get a bite on that long line, that saved us bringing it back in. So when you hook the fish, just keep your rod nice and low. So just crank it in nice and quietly. It's only a small fish, this one. So bring it just to within netting range. And then we can pop him off. See, that one's a nice little small chub. Disgorge you for that one. So it just highlights what I was saying about fishing the really light gear and the light rod. I'm just after catching anything. I want to see what's there. I think the nice light kit just allows me to play those fish really quickly, get them into the net without any chance of them bumping off because my rod's too heavy or the gear's just too heavy in general. Right, so after that fish, we're straight back onto that long line. While it's out there, this time I'm going to feed a small ball on the short line just to keep things going there. So what I can do if I miss a bite, hopefully I'll just be able to bring it straight back onto that short line and there'll be a fish waiting there possibly. Bite on that, so I'm just going to bring it a little bit shorter. While my float's fishing that shorter area, I can feed a line to the far bank. See, we've had a bite on that short one. Again, rod nice and low. It's only, again, nice small fish, but they all add up. A little left one. So by doing what I'm doing and feeding in this way, I'm maximising my time in the peg all the time. Instead of just bringing it in, casting and casting and casting every time I miss a bite, I've come back with a fish there, whereas I'd have only been just starting the cast if I didn't have that shorter line. So it gives me quite a lot more time in the water, which that's what we're after at the end of the day. Back out to that long line. While it's out there, feed the short one again. Just another cast. Right, so at the moment, the Waggler's working quite well. I've also got really good conditions for this today. The best time to fish the Waggler, or this type of Waggler fishing, is in these flat calm conditions. When wind becomes into the equation, that's when things have to change a little bit. So at the moment, I'm probably fishing 2 inches over depth. So when my float goes in, it allows it to move slightly, because it's always going to move about a little bit, but tighten up to my hook bait, and it should hold in position then. What you'll find is that the windier it is, or the more undertow there is on the venue, then you tend to have to increase that depth. You may have to go up to a foot, even 2 foot over depth, just to try and keep it still for a small window you're after. You're after 10, 15, 30 seconds at the most maybe. After that, you're going to have to recast. It all depends on the conditions you've got on the day and whether it's suitable to fish this Waggler just touching the bottom, or you're going to have to put line on the bottom. Right, I think probably one of the best things about the Waggler is that it allows me to search a much wider area in my peg than pretty much any other method does. You find that your feed naturally spreads out a little bit more when you are feeding for a Waggler. So it's very hard to put that ball of ground bait or your loose feed down the same hole every time. So you're probably, the two areas that I've got fish today, you've probably got probably a pool table on the two areas that you're putting your bait into. No other method lets you do that, so it sort of lets you catch fish off different areas of your peg. So you can sort of catch a few to the left, a few to the right, a few past it. You don't tend to catch short of it, but you can skip all around that one area of bait and keep fish coming. So it's not like a pole where you're fishing really located on one area and really accurately, and you can tend to spook fish quite easy. With this, they're spread out lovely. It's going to allow me to catch a lot more fish off that one area. I think your rig moving through the peg, that also helps slightly. It can just slowly help to find them fish. As long as it's not moving too quickly, then I'm happy for it to slowly edge its way through the peg. That can often pick the fish out. You're starting to get a lot more bites now. It'll become very clear which line's going to be the best as well throughout the day. So hopefully that's when I'm going to concentrate my efforts come the final. So today's all about working out the best areas of my peg to be fishing. And later on we'll go into what sort of bait we need in each area to catch the required type of fish. Now we've got plenty of bites throughout today. We've not had many big fish, a few small carp, but so that's a nice way to finish. That's definitely the best fish of today. It's a nice little Bertie the barbel as well. We've got some nice memories of catching them last time we were here. Nice way to end that.